Over the past decade, the University of Pittsburgh has prided itself on sending defensive players to the National Football League. Darrelle Revis, Jabal Sheard, H.B. Blades, Scott McKillop, and Aaron Berry. I met these men while I was here at Pitt, serving as a walk-on from 2006 to 2008. This past summer, I sat down with Scott McKillop, and we actually discussed his time here at Pitt, his life in the pros, and life after being a football player. Please join us. After earning All-America awards in his senior season, many experts considered McKillop a top prospect at middle linebacker in the 2009 NFL Draft. However, his draft experience and the outcome was far from what he expected.
I got a call from my agent. He said, hey, Scott, talk to the Chargers. They say they're up in 2 picks, they're going to draft you. They call and they're like, is Scott there? I'm like, this is him. He's like, how's your day going? I was like, well, it's going. It's been a long, long day. He's like, okay, cool. He's like, well, your day's over. So, this conversation is for probably 45 seconds, and I'm like, okay, you never said, in my mind, I'm thinking, you never told me who this was. And he goes, oh, yeah, by the way, we're the San Francisco 49ers. We're going to draft you. The teams that I spoke to prior to the draft or who I thought I was going to get drafted to, usually they say are the ones that don't draft you. Usually the teams that you don't even talk to or barely have any communication with are the ones that draft you. Literally, the only communication I had with the 49ers was, I remember the linebacker coach at the time was Vance Singletary. He called my room, because at the Combine you have roommates. And my roommate was Gerald McGrath, who played for Missouri, and he didn't know my last name. So when he called to the room and was like, hey, is Scott McKillop there? He said no. So at first my roommate hung the phone up, and then I guess he called back and was like, no, your roommate, his name is Scott McKillop, is he there? And he goes, oh, hold on a second, let me get him. I got on the phone, he's like, hey, could you come to the front desk? Filled out a questionnaire, some background on myself, spoke to the linebacker coach for about 10 minutes, and that's all the communication I had with him.
Scott always had a knack for being prepared to play once his number was called. Even though his rookie season was highly productive by most standards, unfortunately, injury put his job in jeopardy.
I was very fortunate that I was drafted in the 5th round by the 49ers. I had a very, very successful rookie season on special teams. I played a couple snaps on defense, and going into my 2nd season, I got injured. I blew my knee out. I tore my ACL, my MCL, my patellar tendon, and I faced a long road of surgeries, rehab, and I had an opportunity to come back in San Fran with Coach Harbaugh as a coach. I came back a little bit too soon. I was fortunate I didn't re-injure my knee structurally, but it wasn't what it used to be. So things didn't work out in San Fran. I was released. We came to the decision that if I wanted to continue to pursue professional football, it was in my best interest to get my 2nd ACL surgery. So I had a successful surgery in January of 2012 with Dr. Bradley at UPMC.
After being released by San Francisco, McKillop found himself searching for an NFL home like most players that battle injuries. Though he signed with the Buffalo Bills in 2011, he soon realized his body was no longer in the condition to compete at the professional level.
The NFL is the NFL is hard to get back into. Once you get drafted and you get a spot on the team, if you get hurt, or if you get injured, it's really hard to get back in. And you don't really know what the team's looking for. I mean, they might want depth at special teams. They want more depth at a veteran linebacker. It's hard to get back in the NFL. It sucks. When you do something your whole entire life, and that's all you've known your whole entire life, to be able to, in your mind, to think that you still can play, but your body just telling you that you can't play anymore. Well, I think the main thing that HB taught me was how to prepare yourself prior to the game, how to get in and break an opponent down, how to find the tendencies that an opponent has.
Watch his eyes, what a great look there. And these slow developing run plays for UConn.
Because when you do well, everybody wants to pat you in the back, but when your team's not playing well, they want to know what's wrong.
After the departure of Blades, Pitt's coaching staff found itself searching for another defensive anchor. Though McKillop fit the mold perfectly, this position had not been guaranteed for him.
Well, after HB left, there was big shoes to fill there. I mean, he was a 3-year starter. He performed well. He was the heart and soul of our defense. And between myself, Greg Webster, I believe it was Steve Dell, we had 3 linebackers to potentially play middle linebacker. Now, obviously, Greg Webster was recruited a lot more than I was. I mean, seeing as Pitt was my only offer, he was slotted to be a middle linebacker. And what they were going to do is they were going to have myself and Adam Gunn battle for the Sam position, and whoever won that was going to call the plays in the huddle. They wanted to make the transition for him to playing as easy as they could, that they were going to have Adam or I call the defense. So due to the fact that he had some health issues and other things come up outside of the football, I wouldn't say it was by default, but I remember, after spring ball, whenever they announced that, I was officially the starter going into the season, and it was going to be, myself and Adam, it was pretty special. And then yet again, to be on the field with my brother, that's also something that I'll cherish for the rest of my life. Well, having the opportunity to play college with my brother, and it was even more special for I believe the first game my junior year is when we played. It was Grambling. I remember being out there. I looked down. I saw my brother, and I got a little teary-eyed.
McKillop led the nation with 151 tackles while serving as the cornerstone for the 5th-ranked defense in college football. Despite all of the defensive success at Pitt, it finished the season at a disappointing 4-7.
As the leader of the defense, when you're not winning or you're not having a successful season, ultimately, if you shut a team out, you're going to win. So as the defense, I tried to take on a lot of the blame for when we didn't play well, because I feel like as well as a quarterback does it on offense, the quarterback of the defense should do it. I feel like myself and Bill Stahl, we were able to, get everybody up together as a team, and, we turned that into a successful season, made a Sun Bowl. I think we
Well, talk to me about
only
the
lost.
Sun Bowl. If I'm not mistaken, that was your second bowl game that you were part of?
That was the Sun Bowl was my first game ever playing in. Being able to play in the bowl game was special because that's something that I didn't have an opportunity until then to play in. Like any football game, it was a business trip. We were there for one reason only, to win. Obviously, we came up and lost 3-0. It was a high-scoring game.
Yeah, I know you had a great time. Well, let's talk about some of your favorite memories.
My favorite memories playing football, I mean, it goes without saying that the biggest victory that I was a part of at the University of Pittsburgh was the upset of West Virginia.
Let's talk about the preparation for the backyard brawl. Every Pitt student knows that we play Country Roads by John Denver all week long, but what else goes into it? How did you get ready to play WVU?
Well, the week preparation for the West Virginia game is a little bit different than any other opponent, seeing as we both hate each other and we both essentially treat the game as a bowl game. And if you look at our schedule, we were, I believe, 3-7, or we weren't very good. And we knew that basically nobody gave us a chance in hell. In our mind, we really had nothing to lose.
Backyard brawl, 2007. First thing that comes to mind.
4th and 1, it was a man blitz. I forget what it was called, but it was basically everybody in our defense was responsible for a gap. Thatcher was coming from the safety. He had the left A gap and I had the right A gap, and it was just an all-out blitz. I mean, it was, someone was going to make a play. I came in, I disengaged the center, it was Mike Dent, shed him, and made the tackle on Slayton. And then and then to make matters worse is I had I didn't celebrate very many times in my career, and I always got some slack from some of the players and some of my family members about my I need to show like more flair with my game, and of course the one time I celebrate ever when I did this is now the image that is forever captured that people know me for. It's like the worst celebration I think ever. Besides, whenever but this was planned though. When I scored my first and only touchdown in the NFL, me and Jeff Ulbrich, we stole the idea from Dumb and Dumber when Lloyd and Harry missed the high five. So like I would say those two are probably tied up there. One of the things that Coach Wanstead stressed to us was adversity. It's gonna hit in a game, whether it's the first play of the game, the last play of the first half, the first play of the second half. There comes a point in the game where a big play is gonna happen, and however you react to it as a team usually is a deciding factor in how well you guys play.
Can you recall what was going through your mind at that time? More specifically, what were you thinking during the game?
Myself personally, it was a close game, and I know deep down inside I don't want to admit it, but I was always just waiting for that one play for them to break it, and it never happened. We never had a person try and do someone else's job. If I was supposed to be an A gap, whether the ball was going outside to the left, I stayed in A gap. So I felt like we were very, very simple. We were very vanilla, and we just essentially came out and punched him in the mouth.
Well, obviously the backyard brawl has been one of college football's most ferocious rivalries, and it seems like it's going to be an albatross in your life for a long time. Tell us what that rivalry means to you.
Well, the rivalry has a lot more meaning to me now. My fiance and her family are diehard Mountaineer fans, and obviously my family were diehard Pitt fans. Even though there's numerous times where we argue about who's better and which team would win and whatnot, my claim to fame is the 13-9 game. So no matter what they say, I mention the 13-9 game, and as well as the 9 national championships.
Where are your kids going to school?
If we're fortunate enough and we're blessed to have healthy children, I tend to say wherever they want to go. I'm sure she would say over her dead body they would go to Pitt, and that she'd probably pursue them to go to West Virginia as much as she possibly could. But we all know that Pitt's a way better education than West Virginia.
Congratulations on seizing the opportunity to coach at your alma mater. What is it that you hope to gain from this new career path?
I was fortunate to have a great career at Pitt. I was fortunate to have a couple years in the NFL. I want to give back, on and off the field to the players, and make them men on and off the field, because I feel like a lot of players aspire to play in the NFL, which is a great dream, but put a lot of eggs in one basket. They want to be successful, but they don't have a fallback plan. And a lot of players, they go to college and they don't take advantage of, their degree. They get a degree that they don't really want. They're just doing it to stay eligible. They can look back at their career whenever it's done, whether they play 10 years in the NFL or just 5 years at Pitt, and don't have any regrets.
Well, how about you, Scott? Can you think of any regrets you might have had? Maybe something you didn't experience at Pitt?
If there's one thing in my career that I regret that I didn't take advantage of, I would have to say taking advantage of the fact that I graduated early in college and didn't pursue my master's. I was fortunate enough to graduate early for my undergrad, and I pursued another degree in order to stay eligible my last year and a half at Pitt. I wish I would have went back and pursued my MBA at Pitt's Katz Graduate School of Business. I could have utilized schooling a little bit better just so I had a step in the door of something that I wanted to do later on. But instead I don't want to say I wasted time, but I feel like I was just taking classes. When I look back on it, that is one of my regrets, that I wish I would have pursued my master's at Pitt while I was playing.
Well, when it's all said and done, what would you like for the legacy of Scott McKillop to be?
The legacy that I would like for myself to have is obviously I played 5 years at the University of Pittsburgh, played 3 years in the NFL. So that's 8 years of my life. I want to have a long career in coaching, and I want to be more well known as a coach than I am as a player. I feel like as a coach, I can give back and I can help mold young athletes, young adults, and be a positive influence in their life.
Okay, Scott, time for the last question. What would you like for our Pitt family to know about you?
What I would like the Pitt family to know about me is that deep down inside, I bleed blue and gold, and no matter where my path takes me as a coach, my heart will always be here at the University of Pittsburgh. Hail to Pitt.